My name is Anna, and as I sit here now reflecting on the journey of my first flight as a flight attendant, I'm filled with a swirl of emotions that are hard to put into words. That day, the day my dream of working among the clouds came true, was both exhilarating and terrifying. I can still hear the sound of my alarm that morning, piercing through the quiet of my apartment. But for the first time in months, it wasn't just a signal to wake up, it was the starting bell for the realization of my aspirations. I'd spent countless weeks in training, absorbing every detail about safety protocols, passenger care, and the intricacies of flight operations. Imagining the moment I would step onto an aircraft in uniform had been my driving motivation, and now, that moment had arrived. My uniform hung on the closet door, a pristine symbol of the effort I had poured into this journey. I'd ironed it the night before, ensuring every fold and seam was flawless. It wasn't just clothing, it was a badge of honor. As I tied my hair neatly and applied the final touches to my appearance, I couldn't ignore the butterflies in my stomach. I checked my reflection in the mirror repeatedly, scrutinizing every detail. Did I look professional enough? Did my smile convey confidence, or did it betray the apprehension brewing inside me? My nerves rattled, a sharp contrast to the meticulous outward calm I was determined to project. The drive to the airport felt surreal. The city's morning hustle seemed distant as I focused on the day ahead. Arriving at the bustling terminal was like stepping into a different world. Passengers hurried past with suitcases, announcements echoed overhead, and the scent of fresh coffee mingled with the crisp air-conditioned breeze. My fellow crew members greeted me warmly, their smiles reassuring yet carrying an air of seasoned confidence that I could only hope to emulate. Flight 102 was scheduled to depart for New York, a destination as dynamic and alive as the emotions coursing through me. The city represented the dreams and energy that had fueled me through weeks of rigorous training. I had envisioned this moment countless times during those sessions, imagining myself confidently taking my place among the crew. Yet now, as the day had finally arrived, reality brought with it a mix of exhilaration and anxiety. The pre-flight briefing was a whirlwind of information, and though I listened attentively to every detail about safety procedures and passenger logistics, my mind was alive with questions. Could I truly rise to the occasion? Would I meet the expectations of my passengers, my crew, and most importantly myself? Every scenario I had trained for played out in my head like a rapid slideshow, assisting passengers, responding to emergencies, and maintaining a calm demeanor under pressure. The energy of the airport only added to my heightened state of awareness. Passengers streamed through the terminal with a palpable sense of purpose. Some hurried with determination, while others strolled casually, dragging suitcases and sipping coffee. The intercom's announcements formed a steady soundtrack to this bustling atmosphere, and I felt a sense of responsibility growing within me. This wasn't just a job, it was a pivotal role in ensuring the comfort and safety of hundreds of people. As I clutched my clipboard, I glanced at my fellow crew members. Their confidence was evident in the way they carried themselves, their practiced efficiency a testament to years of experience. They greeted me warmly, their smiles both encouraging and reassuring. I drew strength from their composure, determined to channel their example as I stepped into this role. When the boarding call came over the speakers, my pulse quickened. This was the moment I had been preparing for. Taking my place at the gate, I felt a deep breath steady my nerves. Passengers began to arrive, and I greeted each one with a smile, my practiced good morning becoming more genuine with every interaction. Each individual brought their own energy to the process, families juggling restless children, business travelers focused on their phones, solo adventurers clutching their boarding passes with anticipation. Every face told a story, and I found myself wondering about their journeys. Where were they headed? What adventures awaited them in New York? I realized that while their destinations varied, I had a role in making their journey a positive one. This thought inspired me to approach each passenger with renewed warmth and attentiveness. It wasn't long before I encountered my first memorable moment of the day. A young boy holding a toy airplane bounded into the gate area, his eyes wide with excitement. His parents followed closely behind, their expressions a mix of amusement and exhaustion. The boy's enthusiasm was contagious, a refreshing burst of innocence amidst the bustling terminal. He darted toward the plane, his small legs moving with surprising speed. "Wait!" I called out, my voice carrying a mix of laughter and concern. His parents hurried after him, apologizing profusely as they caught up. When the boy finally stopped in front of me, he tilted his head back to look up, clutching his toy tightly. "Are you the pilot?" he asked, his voice filled with awe. The simplicity of his question brought a genuine smile to my face. I crouched down to meet his gaze, appreciating the curiosity and wonder in his expression. "No," I replied with a gentle laugh, "but I'm here to make sure you have the best flight ever." He nodded solemnly, as though understanding the importance of my role, and returned to his parents, who smiled in relief. That interaction stayed with me as I continued through the boarding process. It reminded me why I had chosen this path to create meaningful connections and moments of care in an environment that could often feel impersonal. With this renewed perspective, I greeted each traveler with a warmth that came from a genuine desire to make their journey special. Little did I know, this was only the beginning of a day filled with lessons, challenges, and moments that would shape my understanding of what it meant to work among the clouds. The first boarding call came over the speakers, jolting me into action and marking the true start of my responsibilities. This was at the moment I had trained for and visualized countless times. Taking my place at the gate, I adjusted my uniform one final time and plastered on a smile that I hoped conveyed both professionalism and warmth. As passengers approached, I greeted each one with a cheerful good morning, though my hands fidgeted nervously behind the counter. Each interaction felt like a small step toward calming my nerves and solidifying my place in this new role. The line of passengers moved steadily, a bustling stream of humanity. Some were weary travelers, their expressions marked by long journeys or lack of sleep. Others were eager tourists, their excitement evident as they clutched guidebooks and maps. There were also the business professionals, brisk and purposeful, their attention divided between their phones and the task of boarding. Each individual carried a story, and it dawned on me that I wasn't merely a spectator to their travels but an integral part of their journey. I observed the subtle details: a nervous first-time flyer gripping their boarding pass a little too tightly, a couple exchanging glances filled with anticipation for their destination, and a family managing a pair of energetic children who giggled at every announcement. For a brief moment, I wondered about their stories. Were they heading home or embarking on new adventures? Were they chasing dreams, visiting loved ones, or starting fresh chapters in their lives? Standing there at the threshold of the plane, I realized the significance of my role. I was not just facilitating a process but creating an experience, one that could influence how passengers felt about their journey. This understanding gave me renewed purpose. My practiced good morning became infused with genuine warmth, and I found myself looking forward to the small connections I could make with each traveler who passed by. As the line continued to flow, I caught snippets of conversations and moments of laughter, adding texture to the rhythm of the boarding process. Each greeting I extended felt less mechanical and more heartfelt, as if I were greeting guests into my own home rather than onto an aircraft. This shift in perspective made all the difference, turning a routine task into an opportunity to make someone's day just a little brighter. By the time the last passenger boarded, I felt a sense of accomplishment. The nervous energy that had accompanied me at the start of the process was now replaced with a calm confidence. Boarding was just the first step, and as I stepped into the cabin to begin the next phase of my responsibilities, I carried with me a growing excitement for the challenges and connections that awaited. It wasn't long before the first test of my composure arrived. Among the passengers was a young boy holding a toy airplane. His wide-eyed wonder mirrored the excitement I had felt about this day. Suddenly, he broke free from his parents, running toward the plane with unabashed enthusiasm. "Wait!" I called out, laughing nervously as his parents scrambled to catch up. When they finally did, the boy turned to me and asked, "Are you the pilot?" His innocent question brought a much-needed moment of levity. I crouched down, meeting his curious gaze. "No," I said, smiling. "I'm a flight attendant. My job is to make sure you have the best flight possible." He nodded solemnly, as if understanding the gravity of my role, and rejoined his family. That small interaction was a turning point. It reminded me of the deep purpose behind my role, to create an experience, not just a service. I realized then that every smile, every greeting, and every thoughtful moment was an opportunity to connect with someone and perhaps brighten their day. From that moment forward, I began to see the boarding process through a new lens. Each passenger was not just another face in the crowd, they were an individual with a unique story. I started noticing the subtle details: a nervous flyer gripping their ticket tightly, a family trying to calm an excited child, or a business traveler with an air of quiet determination. Every interaction became a chance to make a difference, however small it might seem. One particularly touching moment was with an elderly woman traveling alone. Her hands trembled slightly as she handed me her boarding pass. "First time flying in years," she said, her voice filled with a mix of anxiety and excitement. I guided her with care, helping her locate her seat and stow her belongings. "You're in good hands," I reassured her with a smile. Her gratitude was immediate and heartfelt, and it gave me a renewed sense of fulfillment. Another instance involved a family juggling luggage and restless children. The mother looked frazzled, apologizing repeatedly as her kids darted about. "It's perfectly okay," I said warmly, crouching down to their children's level. "Are you excited for your trip?" Their smiles widened as they nodded eagerly, and their parents visibly relaxed. These brief moments of connection made me realize how impactful a kind word or gesture could be. By the time the last passenger boarded, I felt a surge of accomplishment. What began as a routine task evolved into an opportunity to share empathy, calm nerves, and spread positivity. Boarding was just the beginning of the journey, but it had already set the tone for the rest of the day. Each small interaction reinforced the idea that I wasn't just a flight attendant. I was a part of their experience, a steward of their comfort, and perhaps even a source of joy on a long and tiring journey. The boarding rhythm became a dance of motions and emotions. Families bustled with young children, their excitement palpable. Solo travelers often greeted me with a polite nod, their focus on boarding quickly. Business professionals, with their briefcases and phones, exuded an air of purpose. Every interaction added a layer to the narrative of the day. I found joy in these fleeting exchanges, reminding myself that each passenger carried their own unique story. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of a day that would push me beyond my limits in ways I couldn't have foreseen. As the morning progressed, I found myself navigating a whirlwind of emotions, interactions, and challenges that tested not only my ability to handle the responsibilities of my new role but also my resilience and adaptability. The skies, I quickly realized, were a world unto themselves, a place where routine and unpredictability coexisted in an intricate dance. Each moment brought with it a new test, whether it was calming a crying baby, assisting a nervous first-time flyer, or handling the logistical complexities of ensuring everyone's comfort and safety. I learned that my training, though thorough, could only prepare me so much. The true test lay in how I applied that knowledge in the real world. One particularly humbling experience came during a moment of turbulence. The plane shook unexpectedly, and a wave of unease spread through the cabin. Passengers glanced around nervously, and I could feel the tension building. My heart raced, but I remembered the importance of projecting calm. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said through the intercom, keeping my voice steady, "please ensure your seat belts are fastened. We are experiencing a bit of turbulence, but rest assured, the crew is here to assist you." As I walked through the cabin, checking on passengers and offering reassurance, I realized how vital it was to remain composed. My presence and demeanor could set the tone for everyone else. The emotional moments were equally challenging. I vividly recall a young woman traveling alone, visibly upset and clutching a photo. When I approached to ask if she needed anything, she confided in me that she was on her way to visit a sick relative. In that moment, all the protocol and procedures faded into the background. What mattered was empathy. I offered her a tissue, a warm smile, and a few words of comfort. Though I couldn't solve her problem, I hoped that my small gesture made her journey a little more bearable. By the end of the day, I had encountered more than I could have ever anticipated. I learned that the skies weren't just a place of travel, but a crucible for personal growth. Every challenge I faced became a stepping stone, teaching me to rise to the unexpected, navigate emotional complexities, and find strength in every experience. My first day as a flight attendant wasn't just about fulfilling a dream, it was about discovering who I was and who I could become in the face of the unknown. When I arrived at the airport, the sheer magnitude of activity was both invigorating and overwhelming. Passengers of all walks of life hurried past with bags in tow, their expressions ranging from excited to exhausted. The sound of announcements echoed through the grand halls, a constant backdrop to the controlled chaos. The aroma of fresh coffee from nearby kiosks mixed with the faint scent of aviation fuel wafting in from the tarmac, creating a unique sensory experience. As I navigated through the terminal, I took a moment to observe the intricate dance of the airport's operations. Ground crew moved with precision, ticket agents addressed passenger concerns, and screens displayed departure and arrival times in rapid succession. It was a world in motion, and I was about to step into its very heart. My fellow crew members greeted me with warm smiles and words of encouragement. Their seasoned confidence was evident in the way they carried themselves, and I hoped to mirror that demeanor as I grew into my role. Flight 102 was set to depart for New York, a destination teeming with energy and opportunity, much like the emotions coursing through me. The pre-flight briefing brought a mix of clarity and apprehension as I absorbed every detail. My hands clutched the clipboard tightly, not from fear but from determination. I reminded myself of the months of training that had prepared me for this moment. Every safety drill, every practice scenario had led to this day. The first boarding call snapped me out of my thoughts. Taking my place at the gate, I donned my practice smile and began greeting passengers. Each good morning felt like a small victory, a step closer to quelling my nerves. The line moved steadily, bringing a diverse array of travelers. Business professionals hurried to secure their carry-ons, families wrangled restless children, and solo adventurers clutched their passports with anticipation. Each person carried a story, and I couldn't help but wonder about their journeys. It was within this bustling flow that my first real test came. A young boy holding a toy airplane broke free from his parents, his excitement evident in his beaming face. He ran ahead, heading straight toward the plane. "Wait!" I called out instinctively, my voice mingling with the laughter of his parents as they hurried after him. When they caught up, the boy looked up at me with wide eyes and asked, "Are you the pilot?" The simplicity of his question brought a much-needed moment of levity, grounding me amidst the swirling activity of the boarding process. I crouched to his level, allowing myself a small pause to connect with the wonder in his eyes. His toy airplane, slightly scuffed and well-loved, clutched tightly in his hands, reminded me of my own childhood dreams of flying. "No," I replied, my voice warm and steady, "but I'm here to make sure you have an amazing flight." His wide eyes reflected a seriousness beyond his years, as though he truly grasped the weight of my words. He nodded solemnly and glanced at the airplane behind me before quietly rejoining his family. His parents, visibly relieved, exchanged a knowing smile with me, silently thanking me for indulging their son's curiosity. As I stood and adjusted my uniform, I felt an unexpected sense of calm and joy. That brief exchange with the boy was more than just a moment. It was a reminder of why I had chosen this path. The excitement, the awe, the human connection, these were the reasons I had spent weeks training and preparing. The boy's innocent questions stayed with me, carrying me through the rest of the boarding process with a lighter heart and a renewed sense of purpose. This brief interaction set the tone for the rest of the day. It reminded me that amidst the technicalities and responsibilities, my role was deeply human. I wasn't just there to ensure safety or serve meals, I was there to create a positive experience for every passenger who walked through those gates. With that perspective, I greeted each traveler with genuine warmth, eager to embark on this journey alongside them. A child's innocence. The day truly began as the boarding gates opened, and passengers began to file in, bringing with them a kaleidoscope of energy and emotions. Among them was a young boy clutching a toy airplane, his small hands gripping it as though it were his passport to adventure. His wide-eyed wonder was a sharp contrast to the weariness etched on his parents' faces, likely the result of an early morning or a hectic journey to the airport. I stood at the gate, my professional smile firmly in place, offering greetings to passengers. Just as I was getting into a rhythm, the boy broke free from his parents and darted ahead, running toward the plane with unbridled excitement. His tiny legs carried him surprisingly fast, and for a moment, it felt like time slowed as I saw the joy radiating from his face. "Wait!" I called out instinctively, my voice mingling with the laughter of other passengers who had noticed the scene. His parents hurried after him, their apologies spilling out as they caught up, but the boy's focus was unwavering as he stood before me. He looked up at me with a mix of awe and curiosity, his toy airplane clutched tightly against his chest. "Are you the pilot?" he asked, his voice tinged with the kind of innocence that only children possess. I couldn't help but laugh, a genuine, unguarded moment that melted some of the tension I had been carrying. Crouching down to his level, I smiled and said, "No, I'm not the pilot. I'm a flight attendant, and my job is to make sure you have the best flight possible." The boy nodded solemnly, as if he fully understood the importance of my role. His parents chuckled nervously, thanking me as they gently guided him toward their seats. That small interaction stayed with me throughout the day. It was a reminder that even in a highly structured environment like an airport, there's room for moments of joy and connection. It also highlighted the magic of flying, something so routine for many adults but utterly enchanting for children. Watching the boy's excitement reignited my own sense of wonder about this incredible job I was just beginning. From that moment on, I found myself approaching the rest of the day with a lighter heart, more attuned to the stories unfolding around me and the impact I could have on each passenger's experience. Passenger assistance. It wasn't long before the real challenges began. The passengers continued to file in, each bringing their own unique needs and personalities. It was a steady flow of faces, bags, and questions, but the first real test of my patience and composure came in the form of a man carrying a suitcase far too large for the cabin. He approached with purpose, his expression one of determination, but my eyes immediately zeroed in on the oversized bag. It was clear it wouldn't fit in the overhead compartments. My pulse quickened as I prepared to address the situation, my training echoing in my mind. "Sir," I began, keeping my voice calm yet firm, "I'm afraid your bag is too large to be stored in the cabin. It will need to go in the cargo hold." The man's expression shifted into a frown, and he shook his head. "I need this bag with me," he said, his tone tinged with frustration. "It has important items I might need during the flight." My palms felt clammy as I stood my ground. "I understand, sir," I replied, meeting his gaze with steady professionalism. "However, for everyone's safety and to ensure compliance with airline regulations, it's necessary for oversized items to be stored in the cargo. Your bag will be safe and waiting for you upon arrival." He hesitated, his frown deepening as he glanced at the growing line of passengers behind him. A moment of tension hung in the air, but finally, he sighed and handed over the bag. "Fine," he muttered, his tone resigned but not hostile. As I tagged his luggage for the cargo hold, I felt a small surge of confidence. It wasn't just about enforcing a rule, it was about managing a delicate balance between firmness and empathy. The interaction, though brief, taught me an invaluable lesson about standing firm while maintaining courtesy. The challenges continued as more passengers boarded. A young mother carrying an infant struggled with her diaper bag and personal belongings, the baby's cries growing louder with each passing moment. Her eyes darted around the cabin, a mixture of embarrassment and desperation clear on her face. Stepping in quickly, I offered a reassuring smile. "It's okay," I said softly. "Take your seat, and I'll help you get settled." I guided her to her seat, helping her stow her belongings and offering a small bottle of water to ease the moment. "Thank you," she whispered, her relief evident. It was another small victory, a reminder that my role wasn't just about safety protocols or service, it was about being present and supportive in the moments that mattered most. These encounters, while seemingly minor, began to weave together the fabric of my day. Each interaction tested my ability to think on my feet, adapt to different personalities, and provide solutions with patience and empathy. They reminded me that every passenger, whether traveling for business, family, or leisure, deserved the same level of care and respect. As more passengers boarded, the energy in the cabin grew louder, and with it came a chorus of different emotions. Among the bustling activity, my attention was drawn to a young mother struggling to juggle a crying baby and an overflowing diaper bag. Her face was flushed with embarrassment as she tried to soothe her child while keeping an apologetic smile directed at the passengers around her. I could feel the tension she carried as she approached me, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm so sorry," she said, her words rushed and her tone heavy with worry. I stepped closer, offering her a warm, reassuring smile. "It's okay," I said softly. "Take your seat. I'll help you settle in." As she moved toward her assigned seat, I walked alongside her, offering assistance with her belongings. Once seated, I handed her a small bottle of water and a packet of tissues from my uniform pocket. The baby's cries were still persistent, but I noticed the tension in the mother's shoulders ease slightly as she mouthed a quiet, "Thank you." Moments like these are a poignant reminder that my job extends far beyond safety checks and serving drinks. It's about being attuned to the needs of the passengers, offering kindness and empathy when they need it most. As I walked back to the aisle, I saw the mother holding her baby close, humming softly in an attempt to calm the little one. These small gestures might seem inconsequential, but in that moment, I realized how much of an impact they could make. Every person on that flight was experiencing their own journey, and I had the opportunity to be a part of it. Those moments of connection, no matter how brief, underscored the heart of what it meant to be a flight attendant, to make people feel cared for, seen, and supported in the midst of their travels. Moments of crisis. The flight took off smoothly, and for a while, it felt as though the rhythm of the sky had settled into a predictable calm. Passengers were seated, some engrossed in books, others napping or chatting quietly. I had just finished a routine walkthrough of the cabin when the tranquility was interrupted. It started with a subtle tremor. The plane shuddered slightly, like a faint whisper of turbulence. At first, it was easy to dismiss, and I saw passengers glance around before returning to their activities. However, the tremors soon escalated into pronounced shakes that rattled the overhead compartments. A murmur of unease rippled through the cabin. The captain's voice came over the intercom, calm and steady, "Ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing some turbulence. Please remain seated with your seat belts fastened." Most passengers obeyed, but I noticed a man near the front rise abruptly. His face was pale, beads of sweat forming on his forehead. He clutched his chest and staggered slightly. "I can't breathe," he shouted, his voice breaking through the rising tension in the cabin. My heart raced, but instinct and training took over. I hurried to his side, placing a gentle but firm hand on his shoulder. "Sir, please sit down," I said, guiding him to an empty seat nearby. His breathing was shallow, and his eyes darted around in panic. The air seemed to grow thicker with the weight of passengers' gazes as they turned toward the unfolding scene. I grabbed an oxygen mask from the emergency kit and quickly adjusted it to fit over his nose and mouth. "Take deep breaths," I instructed, keeping my voice calm and steady. His initial resistance gave way as the oxygen began to flow, and I could see his shoulders relax slightly. Minutes felt like hours as I knelt beside him, reassuring him with quiet words and monitoring his response. Slowly, his breathing stabilized, and the panic in his eyes dimmed. The other passengers, who had been holding their breath collectively, let out a quiet sigh of relief. A smattering of applause broke out, and I felt a mix of emotions: relief, pride, and a lingering tension that hadn't quite left my chest. As the turbulence subsided, I helped the man back to his original seat. He gave me a shaky but grateful smile. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice hoarse. "That's what I'm here for," I replied with a reassuring nod. The incident left an imprint on me for the rest of the flight. While it had been a moment of crisis, it also underscored the responsibility and privilege of my role. Helping that passenger reminded me why I had chosen this path to be a steady presence in the skies, no matter how turbulent they might become. For the remainder of the flight, I moved through the cabin with a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that even in moments of chaos, I could make a difference. As I reflect on that day, I realize how much I learned about myself and the depth of resilience I possessed. Each challenge, whether it was turbulence that shook not only the plane but also my confidence, or the misplaced luggage that left passengers anxious, tested my patience and adaptability in ways I hadn't anticipated. One moment stands out vividly: a woman frantically searching for her phone. She was seated near the middle of the plane, her face pale with worry. "It's gone," "Someone must have taken it," she exclaimed, her voice trembling as she searched her seat pocket for the third time. The surrounding passengers began to murmur, their curiosity piqued by the commotion. I could feel the weight of her panic filling the cabin, threatening to spread. Calming her was my first priority. I knelt down beside her, meeting her worried gaze with what I hoped was a reassuring smile. "Let's take a moment to check thoroughly," I said softly. "Sometimes things end up in unexpected places." She nodded hesitantly as I gently asked if I could search her bag. Her hands shook as she handed it to me. Carefully, I began going through the contents, and within moments, my fingers brushed against something hard and rectangular tucked inside a hidden pocket. Pulling it out, I revealed her phone. Her relief was immediate and palpable. "Oh, thank goodness!" she exclaimed, pressing a hand to her chest as tears welled up in her eyes. "I must have put it there without thinking." The tension in her voice gave way to gratitude, and her smile was contagious. I couldn't help but share in her relief, knowing I'd helped turn a potentially upsetting moment into one of reassurance. Later, as the flight began its descent and I made my final rounds, another touching moment unfolded. While tidying the cabin, I noticed a small stuffed animal, a well-loved bear with a missing ear tucked under one of the seats. I immediately thought of the little boy who had asked if I was the pilot. Clutching the toy, I felt a pang of sadness for the child who would likely realize its absence after leaving the plane. Determined to reunite him with his beloved companion, I held on to the bear as the passengers disembarked. When the boy and his parents approached the door, I knelt down and held out the bear. "Is this yours?" I asked, smiling. The boy's eyes widened in recognition, and his face lit up with pure joy. "My teddy!" he shouted, grabbing the bear and hugging it tightly. His parents looked equally relieved, their gratitude evident in their smiles. "Thank you so much," his mother said, her voice warm with sincerity. These moments, though seemingly small, stayed with me long after the flight ended. They reinforced the importance of paying attention to details, showing kindness, and remaining calm in the face of others' distress. Each act, no matter how minor it seemed at the time, contributed to the larger tapestry of connection and care that defined my role as a flight attendant. Later, as we prepared for landing, I noticed a small stuffed animal under a seat. It was a scruffy teddy bear with a missing ear and a stitched-up paw, clearly loved and well-worn. My mind immediately flashed to the little boy who had asked if I was the pilot earlier in the day. The thought of him realizing his beloved companion was missing tugged at my heart. Holding the bear gently, I resolved to reunite it with its owner. As passengers began disembarking, I kept an eye out for the boy. The anticipation grew with every person who passed by. Finally, I spotted him holding his parents' hands, his face a mix of tiredness and lingering excitement from the flight. I knelt down, holding up the teddy bear with a smile. "Is this yours?" I asked softly. His eyes widened in recognition, and his entire face lit up with joy. "My teddy!" he exclaimed, rushing forward to grab it. He hugged the bear tightly, as though the world had been made right again. His parents looked equally relieved, their gratitude shining through their expressions. "Thank you so much," his mother said, her voice warm and sincere. In that moment, I felt a profound sense of fulfillment. The simplicity of the act didn't diminish its importance. To the boy, it was everything, and seeing his happiness made every challenge of the day worthwhile. It was a reminder that even the smallest gestures could leave a lasting impact, not just on others but on myself as well. By the end of the day, I felt a profound mix of exhaustion and exhilaration, the kind that comes from pouring every ounce of energy into something meaningful. Being a flight attendant, I had come to realize, isn't just about serving food or showing safety demonstrations. It's about connecting with people, staying calm under pressure, and finding joy in the moments that seem small but carry great significance. Throughout the day, I learned to trust my training, instincts, and even my ability to empathize in ways I hadn't anticipated. Whether it was calming a panicked passenger during turbulence, returning a lost stuffed animal to its owner, or simply offering a smile to someone who needed it, each interaction reinforced the human element of my role. Every challenge was an opportunity to grow, to adapt, and to make someone's journey just a little bit better. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, I walked away from the plane with a renewed sense of purpose. The day had been far from perfect, but its imperfections had shaped it into something unforgettable. I felt pride, not only for having made it through but for the lessons I had carried with me. Resilience, empathy, patience, these weren't just words. They were the foundation of what it meant to thrive in the skies. Looking up at the fading light, I couldn't help but think of the future. This was only the beginning, and if every flight brought with it even a fraction of the growth and fulfillment of this one, I was ready to embrace it all. The sky, I realized, wasn't just where I worked, it was where I was meant to be. As the sun set and I walked away from the plane, I couldn't help but feel proud. My first flight had been far from perfect, but it had been transformative. Each challenge I faced, the panicked passenger, the misplaced items, the turbulence that tested my nerves, became a stepping stone toward a deeper understanding of what it truly meant to serve others at 30,000 feet. I paused for a moment outside the terminal, letting the evening air wrap around me. The sky was painted in hues of orange and pink, a breathtaking contrast to the day's chaos. I couldn't help but replay the moments that stood out: the boy's innocent question about whether I was the pilot, the grateful mother who finally settled her crying baby, the passengers who looked to me for reassurance during turbulence. These weren't just moments, they were milestones in my journey. Each step I took away from the plane felt lighter, not just because the day was over, but because of the sense of accomplishment that now filled me. The lessons I learned, resilience, empathy, and the power of remaining calm under pressure, weren't just about the job. They were life lessons I would carry with me, both in the air and on the ground. As I walked through the terminal, I reflected on the whirlwind of emotions that had shaped my first flight. From the moment I greeted my first passenger to the turbulent skies that tested my resolve, every experience added a new layer of understanding. I replayed the image of the little boy clutching his teddy bear, his face lighting up when he was reunited with his lost companion. I remembered the mother who had finally managed to calm her crying baby, offering me a grateful smile that spoke volumes. And, of course, the passenger who had panicked mid-flight, whose trust in my ability to help him gave me confidence in my training and instincts. These were not just isolated incidents. They were the moments that defined the essence of my role. As a flight attendant, I realized, my job was as much about connecting with people as it was about ensuring their safety. It was about listening, offering a kind word, and sometimes just being a calm presence in an otherwise stressful situation. The vibrant energy of the airport, the constant movement, the myriad of faces felt different now. I saw in it not just the hustle and bustle of travel, but the countless stories waiting to unfold. The sky, once a distant dream, was now a place where I belonged, a realm where I could grow, learn, and touch the lives of others in meaningful ways. As I stepped outside into the cool evening air, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the world in shades of orange and purple. The serenity of the moment contrasted sharply with the chaos of the day, offering me a moment to breathe deeply and process everything I had experienced. I knew that every flight would bring new challenges, but that thought no longer intimidated me. Instead, It filled me with anticipation. If this was just the beginning, I couldn't wait to see where the journey would take me next. I looked up at the sky, feeling a renewed sense of purpose and gratitude for the path I had chosen. Each day in the air would be an opportunity not just to fulfill my duties but to grow as an individual and create moments of connection with others. I smiled, knowing that the adventures of tomorrow awaited, and I was ready to meet them with an open heart and an eager spirit. Looking up at the sky, I felt a surge of excitement for what lay ahead. The colors of the setting sun, oranges, pinks, and purples blending seamlessly reminded me of the ever-changing beauty of life and the limitless opportunities that awaited me in the skies. If this was just the beginning, I thought to myself, I couldn't wait to see the adventures that the future held. The sky wasn't just a workplace, it was where I felt alive, a realm of endless possibilities and constant movement. Each flight promised a new set of challenges, new stories to uncover, and new ways to grow as both a professional and a person. The day had shown me that growth comes from stepping out of one's comfort zone, from facing uncertainty head-on, and from connecting deeply with those around us. As I walked away from the terminal, I reflected on the people I'd met, the lessons I'd learned, and the emotions I'd navigated. I realized that being a flight attendant wasn't just a job, it was a way to touch lives, to offer comfort and joy, and to be part of something greater. The thought filled me with pride and gratitude, knowing I was embarking on a journey that was as much about self-discovery as it was about serving others. I smiled, feeling the cool evening air against my face. Each step I took felt lighter, and with every moment, my resolve to embrace this path grew stronger. The adventures of tomorrow awaited, and I was ready to soar toward them with an open heart and an eager spirit. This was my first day as a flight attendant, a day filled with surprises, challenges, and heartwarming moments. I hope my story inspires you to embrace the unexpected and find strength in the journey, no matter where it takes you. If you enjoyed this story and want to expand your English vocabulary while learning through engaging narratives, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Like this video, share it with friends who are also on their English learning journey, and let's continue growing together. Every share, like, and subscription helps us bring you more stories to learn English in a fun and professional way. Thank you for being part of our journey.